Kashin Koji remembers Jiraiya's life. Essentially, he is him, but with a different personality. Enjoy watching. Reading the Boruto manga, we all missed a very important detail about who Kashin Koji is and the fact that he remembers the legendary Jiraiya's life. That's why he wears the mask. He knows exactly who he is. Koji knew very well that he could infiltrate the Leaf Village because his chakra was not recognized as an enemy's. He entered the hermit mode. This power is not a genetic one. It cannot be passed down like Shibai's techniques. This mode needs to be learned. Even Madara, who received Hashirama's genes, couldn't use the Sage mode. He could only absorb it from the first Hokage and then control it. But Koji could enter the hermit mode, and we saw that. But why and how? In chapter 75 of the manga, when Amato was talking about his daughter, he mentioned that he was able to digitize Akiba's memories and implant them into her new artificial body. The girl possessed all the memories of his daughter, but she was completely foreign to him. She had a different personality, and this moment from the manga explains to us why Kashin Koji could use the Rasengan, enter the hermit mode, and knew he could infiltrate the Leaf Village. All of this is because Amato was able to digitize Jiraiya's memories. However, a question arises. How much does he remember about Jiraiya's life? We remember that Amato was afraid that Naruto would recognize his teacher in the form of Cashen when they watched his fight with Jigen. Koji knew a lot about Kakashi's abilities, about the Leaf Village, and apparently, he knew a lot about the underworld. Where did this knowledge come from? Now we can assume that it was because Jiraiya's memories were digitized. Since the legendary Sannin was a shinobi who knew an incredible number of secrets, it was very advantageous for the Kara organization to obtain his memories. But a question arises, when was Jiraiya's body found and his brain digitized? After all, to do this, the body should be in relatively good condition. In other words, this needs to be done almost instantly after death. And even then, it's not guaranteed to work. Here's a small detail that was mentioned during the Fourth Great Shinobi War. Specifically, Kabuto couldn't retrieve Jiraiya's body from the bottom of the ocean. Why? Shinobi can't dive? Shinobi who can use water techniques, manipulate the elements, couldn't do that? The only logical answer is, he couldn't because his body wasn't there, and Kabuto thought it was lost, and they simply fished it out. But who, why, and when? And here, another assumption arises. Pain had a scientist who helped him with his bodies. We even remember the moment when these bodies were brought to a laboratory where special capsules were built, and there is a presumption that this scientist could have been none other than Amato himself. After Jiraiya lost to Pain, the scientist retrieved his body on Pain's orders, and the shinobi's memory was digitized. I know many will say that at that time, the authors didn't even think of Kashin Koji. I agree with you, but this is a loophole that the authors can use to logically explain where Cashen got his knowledge of how to use the Rasengan, a technique that is not genetically encoded, as well as entering the hermit mode, which is also not a genetic ability. In addition to this, information about Konoha that is not in the genes and much more. Thus, we conclude that Kashin Koji remembers Jiraiya's life because he knows everything that Jiraiya knew. And now, in the Boruto manga, the Hokage's son is using toads in a similar fashion to how Cashen did for surveillance and tracking. This implies that my second assumption, that Kashin Koji will train Boruto, could be correct. During their travels, Boruto and Sasuke encountered a clone of Jiraiya who assisted the 7th second son, as Cashen remembers Naruto well. Even though he has a different personality, the memories are still intact, even under the guise of Kashin Koji. The essence of the legendary Sannin's mission to save the world has not diminished. And if you haven't forgotten, the Great Toad once prophesied that Jiraiya would become the teacher of the world's savior. Right now, Boruto is, quite literally, trying to save the world from destruction. So, the prophecy of the Sage Toad is still in effect. I look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Good luck to everyone.